All right, good afternoon. This is November 20th, 2025, 6 p.m. This is the regular meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're here at 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale, Texas. Tina, can I get a roll call?
Yes, sir.
Good
Place two,
afternoon.
Vice Chair Brown.
This is
Place
November
three,
20th,
Chairman
2025,
Madrid.
6 p.m. This is the regular meeting for the Planning and
Place
Zoning
one,
Commission.
Chair Malakowski.
We're here at 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale,
Place
Texas.
4, Chair Jones.
Tina, can I get a roll call?
And Place 5, Chair Martinez.
Yes, sir.
Present.
Place
good
2, we have a
afternoon.
Vice Chair Brown.
This is
Thank you.
Place
November
3,
20th, 2025,
Chairman
6 p.m.
First,
This is the regular meeting for the Planning and
Place
Zoning
1,
Commission.
Chair
We're
Malakowski.
here at 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale,
Place
Texas.
4,
for items that
Chair
are not
Jones.
on the
Tina,
agenda.
can I get a roll call?
And Place 5, Chair Martinez.
Yes, sir.
Present.
Place 2, we have a Vice Chair Brown.
This is
Thank you.
November
Place
20th, 2025,
So,
6 p.m.
first,
This is the regular meeting for the Planning and
Place
Zoning
1,
Commission.
Chair
We're
Malakowski.
here at 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale,
Public
Texas.
comment
Place
here on previous
four,
items that
Chair
are not
Jones.
on the
Tina,
agenda.
can I get a roll call?
And Place 5, Chair Martinez.
Yes, sir.
If discussion is required.
So we have Vice Chair Brown.
This is
President.
have one November 20th, 2025.
First,
The regular meeting for the Planning and
Place
Zoning
1,
Commission.
Chair Malakowski.
We're here at 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale,
Public comment
Texas.
here on previous items that are not on the
Tina,
agenda.
can I get a roll call?
And Place 5,
discussion at that
Chair
point.
Martinez.
Yes, sir.
If discussion is required.
So we have Vice Chair Brown.
This is have one November 20th, 2025.
First,
The regular meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Chair Malakowski.
We're here at 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale, Texas.
here on previous items that are not
Tina, can I get a roll call?
And Place 5,
discussion
Chair
at that point.
Martinez.
Yes, sir.
If discussion is required.
So we have Vice Chair Brown.
This is public hearing on November 20th, 2025.
First,
The regular meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're here at 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale, Texas.
here on previous items that are not
Can I get a roll call?
And Place 5, Chair Martinez.
Discussion number
So we have Vice Chair Brown.
This is public hearing on November 20th, 2025. First, the regular meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're here at 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale, Texas. Can I get a roll call?
And Place 5, Chair Martinez.
Go ahead. This is public hearing on November 20th, 2025. First, the regular meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission. We're here at 405 Municipal Drive, Kennedale, Texas. Can I get a roll call?
And Place 5, Chair Martinez.
Go ahead. This is public hearing on November 20th, 2025. First, the regular meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Very simple options, it's two classes. Very simple options, it's two classes.
Allowing for fire setback.
Correct, he owns two properties. One very simple options, it's two classes.
Allowing for fire
With that, correct, he owns two properties. One very simple options, it's two classes.
allowing for fire
With that, correct, he owns two properties. One very simple options, it's two classes. It is two currently it's two different that might be the difference. Two different That may be it is two that might be
First speaker that we have is Tracy Hart, as a homeowner at 1406 Report Ms. Hardy, you'll have 3 minutes. Her name is Lisa Tyler. She writes, I am writing. The first speaker that we have is Tracy Hart, as a homeowner at 1406 Report Ms. Hardy, you'll have 3 minutes. Her name is Lisa Tyler. I am writing. The first speaker that we have is Tracy Hart, as a homeowner at 1406 Report Ms. Hardy, you'll have 3 minutes.
Please start over. Please start my time over. Okay, you keep going. Hello, my name is Tracy Hardy, and I live at 1406 Fernwood. I am here today to share some of my concerns with Alta Land and Apartments and the zone change request to PD. I am opposed to the zone changing from multifamily to PD for several reasons. They are non-conforming in multifamily and will be non-conforming in PD. There are a number of things wrong with these apartments that the city of Kennedale has allowed and made exceptions for that affect our neighborhood and their renters, like the setback violations in Section 3, Table 3.3, the retaining wall in Section 10.14 F2B shall not exceed 5 feet in height and at least 10 feet in setback for the retaining wall. In my area, the setbacks are only 3.5 feet from my property, and the retaining wall is approximately 12 to 15 feet in height, not the 5 feet in Section 10. And in PD 9.2, qualifying conditions that apply to all PDs. Number D, compatibility with adjacent use. It states parking areas shall not be located near the perimeter of the PD or as to negatively impact the residents of the adjacent land. Our property lines and setbacks that join their parking lot make it non-conforming to PD 9.2 number D. We already had a vehicle went over the retaining wall through the fence into a neighbor's yard, making it unsafe for everyone involved. Thank God no one was injured, and yes, they did install guard rails, but The parking itself is still a violation of 9.2 of the PD. This could have been prevented if not PD 9.2 number D had been followed, along with the 5 feet retaining wall setbacks in section 10. Alta Landon stated they wanted to change PD to do some things like put in more trees, add carports and other things. All of those things can be done under multifamily zoning. Even the trash dumpster can be moved to a different location, not to the front, but somewhere else from the neighbor's fence. They are, let's see, they have been non-conforming from the beginning. They are still non-conforming. Changing to PD is just a way to cover up the wrong. It doesn't make it better quality or safer for anyone. It's just changing on paper. It's just changing it on paper, not changing the wall. That can't be moved. It is still unsafe. According to section 9.1, PD shall not be sought primarily to avoid the standards and requirements of zoning. Thank you. It's just changing on paper. It's just changing it on paper, not changing the wall. That can't be moved.
The next citizen that has signed up to speak is Mike Watson. He resides at 412 Coker Valley Drive. Mr. Watson, you will have 3 minutes as well.
And requirements of zoning. Thank you. It's just changing on paper. It's just changing it on paper.
Good evening. I'm Mike Watson at 412 Coker Valley.
The next citizen that has signed up.
Thank you for your time, for the work you do for our community.
Resides at
I'm here tonight to respectfully share concerns regarding Alta Landing plan development request and to ask for accountability measures that are fair, reasonable, and necessary for the protection of nearby residents. As you know, the same zoning request came before the city more than a year ago and did not move forward. In the time since that denial, residents have seen no meaningful improvements or corrective actions taken by the property owner. Not a single issue raised during the last cycle. Noise, dumpsters, screening, or perimeter conditions have been addressed. Given that reality, it is appropriate to ask what has changed today that justifies approving the same request. Alta Landing remains significantly out of compliance with current zoning standards. These conditions did not arise because of anything done by neighbors. They exist because of past decisions allowed a higher density development than the city considers acceptable. If the city is going to approve a PD that permanently legalizes non-conforming conditions, it's only reasonable that the ordinance contains safeguards that ensure transparency, accountability, and compliance moving forward. To that end, I respectfully request, if the PD goes forward, protections be written directly into it. Number one, clear, enforceable deadlines for all promised improvements, including dumpster relocation, fencing, landscaping, and screen enhancements. Number two, annual compliance reviews conducted by the city with meaningful enforcement. If required, conditions are not maintained. Number three, mandatory communication with Steeplechase HOA for any future PD amendment, including timely advance notice, neighborhood meeting, submission of the HOA's written comments as part of any amendment application. Number four, a prohibition on administrative amendments, ensuring all modifications, no matter how minor, go through a public hearing process. Number five, a requirement for ongoing property maintenance related to buffers, fencing, lighting, screening, so the PD does not result in long-term degradation near single-family homes. These do not place any unreasonable burden on the property owner, simply ensure that once the city grants this PD, doing so resolves the owner's non-conforming status, that the development will be reasonably maintained and commitments made today will be upheld in the years ahead. Let's see my time's up, so, thank you. Simply ensure that once the city grants this PD, doing so resolves the owner's non-conforming status,
Our final citizen who wishes to speak, who signed up to speak, is John Havale. He resides at 418 Coker Valley Drive. Mr. Havale?
Thank you. Property owner simply ensure that once the city grants this PD, doing so resolves the owner's non-conforming status.
Our final citizen who wishes to speak, who signed up to speak. 3 minutes, sir. John Havale. He resides at 418 Coker Valley Drive. Mr. Havale?
Thank you.
All right, so these two persons who came here, my question is, first, what all they said, I agree. So it's no use of me repeating all this. My second question is, do you take all these, can they, like in Congress, like in the state Senate, state Congress, or Washington, I can submit that. Can they submit those papers as documents that we are requesting? That's my question. And that we hear it, it's recorded, and so that's my question. Because they have put together a lot of good information. So everybody hears, listens, and nothing happens. So from what I'm understanding, this whole PD issue is also supposedly non-conformed in the MF issues there. So by going under the PD, is this dodging what needs to be done under MF? Or is it a duplicate of what's done under the MF and the PD? And what is the ulterior motive of PD? Is that a financial something there that's in a secret file of some time that is sitting around? Because this keeps coming up. We've already dealt with this issue. It keeps coming up, and then, of course, they also alluded to the fact that some of the items were not done. So why is this big noise, big barking going on to do that from MF to PD? And I am strongly requesting that you folks take these people's documents and put it in the files that we have now and let it go into the files of whatever Alta Landing is, so this becomes officially part of that. I don't want this to be tossed out and we make a noise here. It's a worthless issue to come here and orally keep talking about this. So that needs to be taken care of. And what all they have requested needs to be done for all of us. So all of us I can understand the business wants to make their money, but don't run and ride over the rest of us to do their deal. So if you all defend us as citizens of city of Kennedale, then what has been requested, what has been officially put by these two folks and others needs to be implemented and needs to be applied and needs to be done. So we don't go in these circles again and again and again. This needs to stop. And we need to reach a point where this has been resolved. So I am again, last point, requesting that these documents that they have put together, they can make it official, to please make it official with P&Z. Thank you. We don't go in these circles again and again and again. This needs to stop.
Sir.
And we need to reach a point where this has been resolved.
For the public comments, if
So
people
I
have
am
documents that
again,
they
last
wanted
point,
to provide
requesting
along
that
with
these
their public
documents that
comments,
they have put together,
can they
they
give
can
them
make
to you,
it
Tina?
official.
Yes.
Please make it official.
So if anybody has documents that they've gathered to provide along with their public testimony or public comments, please turn them into Tina. For the public comments, if people have documents that they want to provide along with
Yes,
their
no
public
further
comments,
speakers, sir.
all right, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on PZ case 25-17 at 6:19. Provide along with their public testimony. A staff presentation and the developer tonight? For the public comments, if people have documents that they want to so we'll hear from staff
Yes, no
first.
further speakers.
We definitely doesn't necessarily have a staff presentation for you. Obviously, this is a case that started last year and it's been presented to you again. If you have any questions for me, I will do the best I can to answer those. But currently, the current recommendation is to approval for the presentation for you. Obviously, this is a case that started last
you
year.
speak
and it's
to
been presented to you again.
the importance of
if you have any
changing
questions
this
for
to a
me, I'll do
PD
the best I
from
can to
MF.
answer those.
as to some of the things that I know the residents over the years, we've talked about adding the girders and moving the just various things that the residents of this HOA have requested that have been made their way into the PD. And we had a question and comment about how do we make it enforceable. PD is the legal document that allows us to make it enforceable. Can you expand? We've talked about adding the girders.
To that point, that's correct. One way, there's
Requested.
multiple options first, let me say that, right? With the planned development, it does allow for the city to partner with the developer to come in and to establish a standard, whatever that standard may be, that comes to an agreement, right? Between the city council, the planning and zoning, and the developer. That's first and foremost. That's what it allows it to do. Multifamily obviously has, in the Unified Development Code, its own standards. As you go through there, yes, there have been some things that has not been done properly. Some of this is to be able to correct some of those deficiencies within that code. A planned development is one way that we can come in and partner with those and see if we can get those corrected, and also ask for additional things that our citizens may ask that are surrounding the property. If they can put their request in, as they have done for the last probably year and a half. Some of those have been completed. There's some of them that have not been completed to whatever extent, financing or whatever the case may be. So there's a lot of different options that we can go. The developer believes at this point this is the right direction to go. And obviously that's the reason why we're here today, is for them to be able to present to the Planning and Zoning Commission what those options are and what they're capable of doing, willing to do, and honestly, to a certain extent, to hear from our citizens what their requests are as well. I think they're here tonight. I think they'll be able to fulfill some of those obligations, and that was the reason why the recommendation from and what they're capable of doing, willing to do, and honestly, to a certain extent, to hear from our citizens what their requests are.
Mr. Hull, is there any general dialogue that has occurred between you or the city staff and the developers that, since the last hearing, that might shed a little light on maybe what has changed? So when this does go up to city council for recommendation or non-recommendation, Mr. Hull, what has changed as far as that's concerned?
At this point, we have had one meeting. The communication started as in a sense for recommendations to come to P&Z. That was on the recommendation, or I'm sorry, for the developer to come back and review the planned development and see if we can move forward. The recommendation that I gave to the developer is that to start with the community. From my understanding, I'll let them speak on that behalf if they wish. But that was a recommendation from the city, is to go to the citizens and ask for their wants or needs. The recommendation that I gave to them, and that's how we're here today, is that to start with the community. From my understanding, I'll let them speak on that behalf.
Forgive a little bit of my ignorance, but when was construction completed on Multiplan?
Roughly in 2022. Mid-June, July of 2022.
Okay, and at that time, it was zoned multifamily? Forgive a little bit of my ignorance, so it was already non-conformant when it was completed?
Roughly in 2022. Mid-June, July of 2022.
I have a question.
And at that time, it was...
One of the residents mentioned that under multifamily, they're not in compliance now. Will they be in compliance with the things that need to be done under PD can be done only under PD and not under multifamily? I'm wondering about, why it's not, the work's not being done to be in compliance. Under multifamily, they're not in compliance now. Will they be in compliance?
The answer is yes and no. Are there some things, there's some things in multifamily that currently have complaints about that follow that code, right? The developer is not mandated to go make those changes. They're willing to make those changes to accommodate their needs, but under multifamily, they're not required to, right? One of the ways we can change that is go to a planned development. Then we can put that in that document, that agreement, that these changes are going to be made. With that, it allows the city to have an ordinance to go out and enforce what that document is.
And so your recommendation is for the change from multifamily to PD?
Correct. That these changes are going to be made. With that, it allows the city to have an ordinance to go out and enforce what that document is. And we do have the developer here if you would speak with them.
Change from multifamily to PD?
Correct.
Oh, no, sir.
Mr. Chair, Commission, my name is Bill Dahlstrom, here representing Wood Partners. Ryan Miller with Wood Partners is here. Will Guerin, a planner with us, is here as well. And I appreciate the comments we received from the neighborhood. We actually did attempt to have a neighborhood meeting. What didn't materialize, I did personally visit with a neighborhood representative. I went over the list of issues. I did make some modifications to the issues. And what we're here before you tonight is to request the plan development to make it conforming, because there are a lot of negative issues with a non-conforming use, having to do with value, having to deal with being able to finance it, having to be able to sell it. So it is very important from the developer's perspective to have a conforming use. And we are willing to go the extra mile and subject the property to special conditions in the plan development. That's what the plan development would do for the neighbors and for the city. We're not adding any additional units. We're not increasing the height. We are proposing to plant, and this is in the document that you received, we are proposing to plant an additional 26 trees. My PowerPoint. Thank you, Tina. Yes, I do not adding any additional units. We're not increasing the height. We are proposing to plant, and this is in the document that you received, we are proposing to plant an additional 26 trees. My PowerPoint. Thank you, Tina. Well, first of all, Wood Partners is a significant major developer and owner of multifamily throughout the country. As you can see here, they're top 3 ranked national multifamily developer by the National Multifamily Home Council. They've developed over 108,000. Again, they are substantial. They are a substantial developer, corporate citizen here in Kennedale, and they're taking this very seriously, and they want to move forward. Here's the property, but getting back to the list of issues, we aren't proposing any additional units. We are proposing to plant an additional 26 trees, and if you can see the little yellow dots, those trees are primarily adjacent to the property owners, single-family owners to the south, southwest, and west. Trees that would grow in and provide the additional screening that's desired. Carports was mentioned. We have written into our PD no carports. We will not do carports. That was specifically written into the PD. Fencing. We have 6-foot fencing along our boundary. We are proposing to expand that, increase it, put up an additional 2 feet, so we would have 8-foot fences along the boundary, which isn't required today, but the additional trees, the additional fencing. There's another fence that we're proposing, yes, great. Right along this line, we are proposing to expand that. There would be an additional 6-foot fence. Because of the slope there, it's easier, or it's a better screening device to put the screening up closer to the building rather than down at the boundary line. We are going to increase that 6-foot fence on the boundary line to 8 feet, add the additional trees, and put in another 6-foot fence along that driveway. All those enhanced conditions are in the planned development district. So we're trying to address the neighborhood concerns with regard to communication with the neighborhood. Yes, we've also drafted that into the PD conditions that we would conduct a meeting with the neighborhood annually. Enhanced conditions are in the planned development district. So we're trying to address Those are the standards. Okay, the dumpsters would be moved as well. That is actually part of the plan development as well. Our site plan shows those dumpsters being relocated, so they would have to be relocated as well. I mentioned the 2 feet of fence to go to 8 feet. There was another concern about building parking garages. We drafted into the PD conditions, no parking garages, so the parking's not going to change. I mentioned the additional trees, I mentioned the annual meeting. Oh, and we would provide a 30-day notice to the neighborhood before that meeting. And I think it was mentioned earlier, that some things have already been done. We've lowered the lights, we've installed lower LED, lower profile lighting. Was mentioned, thank you, the guardrail was added. We've put in a valet system for collecting trash from tenants. There's a no man's land between the single-family residence fence and our fence because there's a grade change there. We own that. We will maintain that, and that'll have to be maintained as part of the plan development. Parking along Joplin was a concern. That's obviously outside of our realm, but it's our understanding that the city of Kennedale and the city of Arlington are working on identifying that as a fire lane, which would prevent parking. Commercial vehicles being parked overnight. There was a question that there was a commercial vehicle parked there a year or so ago. Our interests are aligned with the neighborhood. We don't want that. We've got that written into our private restrictions, no commercial parking overnight. And again, I mentioned the carport as well. So again, this is a very important application, a very important request. We propose to continue working with the neighborhood. It's our desire to continue to meet with them, hopefully at their next meeting in December, to further refine these issues. But what I showed you as enhancements to try to address the neighborhood concerns are actually additional conditions that we have drafted into the PD, which, as Mr. Hull said, would become an ordinance, which would become law, which would be enforceable, $2,000 per day per violation under Texas law. So we respectfully request a recommendation of approval. Mr. Miller is here. I think, again, we're trying to be good neighbors. It's our desire to continue working with the neighborhood. We would like to meet with them at their next meeting. But in the meantime, we have proposed some additional standards, which I believe were not in the last set of standards that you looked at, that would be enhancements and go beyond what's required of MF today. So again, we're here to answer any questions and respectfully request your recommendation of approval. And thank you for listening to us. Thank you for your time. Some additional standards, which I believe were not in the last set of standards that you looked at.
I have a question. So, for example, like the gentleman said, it
And go
was not
beyond what's
approved the first
required
time,
of MF today.
obviously because of
So again,
concerns or something.
We're
and
here to
then
answer any
from then
questions
till
and
now,
respectfully
we already
request
asked, but
your
just to
recommendation of
double check.
approval.
All the
And thank you for
concerns
listening
that
to us.
the
Thank you for your
homeowners
time.
just said, of all the concerns that they just said, what all has been changed or? So, for example, like the.
It will be. We plan on ordering the trees the week after our Thanksgiving, those 26 trees. We wanted to start this process. We thought it was important to start this process. So we've been working on this process for several months, actually. So we've been looking at what can be done. Moving the dumpsters is not simply just picking them up and moving them. There's some engineering constraints. There's the strength of the concrete below the dumpster, the strength to make sure that the dump trucks have the concrete strong enough to hold the dump trucks when they come in and pick up the dumpsters. So it's not like we've been working on this. It just takes time to go through some of this analysis. How do you make a fence taller? Well, we've had to go through a fence company and figure out how to install an extension 2 feet, how to acquire steel pole sleeves that would go over the existing columns to get to 8 feet. So there's a lot of work that needed to get done. A lot of work has been done, and we're making commitments to begin this work almost immediately as far as the trees go. We've been working on the dumpsters, where we're going to move the dumpsters, and these requirements are all part of this current PD.
So like, let's say they had what, 10 or however many concerns they had, how many of those would you say have been
Making
addressed?
commitments to begin this work almost immediately as far as. I'm not aware of any of them that haven't been addressed, quite frankly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they would-
I mentioned the additional trees, the visibility, the dumpsters moving, the additional screening and fencing, no carports, no garages. I'm not aware of any of them that have. Establishing a correspondence communication with the HOA. I don't know if there are any other concerns raised that we haven't addressed. But again, we propose them to continue working with them and see if there are any other concerns. But yes.
If you'll go back to one of the slides where you said things that would be implemented into the PD, which would be, yes. So I wondered, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
But again, we propose them. These are submitted, these are actually part of the PD.
Yes, but mentioned earlier were 10 requests from the homeowners. So I was trying to see, I know you said some have already been done, so I'm thinking the other 4 of the 10 were already addressed, and these are the additional ones they're requesting that would be a part of the PD.
Yeah, well,
Resolve.
I know with the guardrail's been put into, that was mentioned, that's been done. I think maintenance of the no man's land is something we've agreed to do. That's actually part of our requirement anyway, as part of the owning property to maintain that. So that was one that's not in here because it's already, by virtue of owning property, an obligation.
So the no man's land, that's like an easement or something between the?
It's a gap between the city, single-family residence lot and their fences and our fence at the back. That's not in here because it's already just, there's a gap there.
You're maintaining?
We have to maintain that.
Required.
We will maintain that, yes. Yes.
So the no man's land, that's like an easement or something between the?
It's a gap between.
Ms. Jones, that's actually part of the wall they're talking about, the step-up wall.
Now, I think the wall and then a gap would not be a fence.
That's part of the nonconformity was the standoff. And that's what he's talking about, the no man's land.
They're going to maintain, yes.
The step-up wall.
Yeah, that area between the wall and the fence, and
The wall and then.
that fence was obviously necessary for grading and
Not be a fence.
building the site.
That's part of the.
And again,
nonconformity.
it is an existing site. We aren't proposing any additional units or any additional height. We're trying to
Maintain.
impose standards on us to address some of these aesthetic concerns. That fence was obviously necessary for grading and building the site.
Well, my question and concern, we all kind of know we're dealing with what's done is done. We're trying to put mitigation and controls in there too. Guys, any further risk to the citizens, the state, or the city or your property? One of my concerns was, I believe when we walked through this about a year ago, we had a conditional approval recommendation based on a lot of these requirements. One of them being obviously to kind of keep in touch with the residents out there. Now, I mentioned, or you had mentioned at one point that you had reached out and nothing materialized. I'm a little concerned about that because last communication we had with the HOA side, they had been trying to reach out the same way. So I'm hearing kind of a different story from both sides. So I'd like to hear on your end, what is it that you feel like has stopped that? Because if we're going to require a year or at least a discussion with the HOA as part of this agreement and change, what do you think has been the, shall I say, the blockade there? And what can we do to improve that?
Well,
When I say we, the city and the developer.
and this again is a process. We filed our application, wanted to make sure we addressed the staff concerns. I went ahead and contacted a representative of the neighborhood. We had a meeting in October, I believe. Wanted to schedule a meeting before this hearing. We tried to come up with some dates. We actually thought we had a date, and I was advised that it probably wouldn't be worth my time to come out. It was earlier this week. That was the response I got. In October, I believe.
Who advised you for that? Just curious.
It was, well, the neighborhood representative I was working with. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus.
No, just no names, just kind of like which side of the fence, you know what I'm saying? Bad pun, but,
No, he was a neighborhood representative, yes.
I just want to make sure that, moving forward, especially if this goes up to city council and how it's directed, I'm sure that's going to get a lot more traction with the people showing up and having discussion. Just want to make sure that the understanding of who's responsible for initiating those meetings and following them up, as far as both sides are understood. Simply because, you can't initiate something, if they're not receptive to it, well, that's not on you. So if that's an agreement that is put in there, hey, you shall discuss these things with HOA, and they don't reciprocate, or they don't show up, or they don't become amicable to discussion, well, that's nothing that the city, or even this condition, could be applied on you as a fault. Vice versa, if they're trying to commit to discussing things with you, and the developer kind of says, yeah, next week, and that becomes an issue, then that is something that could be brought up, and I'm not even sure how that would even be technically enforceable as for a condition, but it definitely was one of the recommendations we had put forth the last year. And I just want to make sure that that communication, who's responsible for initiating it, reciprocating it, and even how it's monitored is something that is agreed upon when these things come up to city council. So that's definitely a discussion I'd like you guys to take back and look at.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I think one of the best things about a public hearing, and I've been doing this for over 39 years, is the ability to meet with residents and neighbors at the public meeting. Because you don't always have the ability to meet with folks beforehand. People are busy, people are out. So after this meeting, I intend on meeting with the residents here and seeing when we can meet. I understand there's a neighborhood meeting coming up in December. I would like to be a part of that, but there's no reason why we can't continue the discussions next week. So thank you.
Just making sure that the responsibility of dialogue is understood by both parties, and I'm just making that matter of record by making that statement. That's something that I would definitely encourage the development side to ensure that they're doing what they can for their due diligence. And then, and like I said, you can't bring them to the water, but you can at least offer it. And that's one of the things, make sure it's there.
I'd like to meet with them after this meeting and schedule something as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Doing what they can for their due diligence. And then, like I said, you can't bring them to.
Should we recommend this move forward to the council and the council approves it? What's your completion timeline?
Well, we intend on ordering the trees as soon as possible, the week after Thanksgiving, obviously next
You
week.
mentioned the improvements to the concrete. Have you got an estimate from your engineers about how long that would take when this move forward to the council and the council completion date?
Actually, Ryan, do you want to address that? We intend on ordering the trees as soon as possible, the week after Thanksgiving.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Miller, 10918 Wonderland Trail, Dallas. So we previously were here, I believe, last fall and lost the case. We let things settle down for a while. We figured it was time to re-engage with the HOA. And so Bill was courteous enough to start that process with us. But previously, we had a full timeline put together. We still have that timeline. Obviously, it needs to get updated. We can, as Bill mentioned, we'll order the trees following Thanksgiving week. We can get those installed, I would think, depending on their availability, within, a couple of 2 or 3 weeks. That wouldn't take very long. Bill mentioned the dumpster is a little bit of a bigger issue. There's drainage that has to be updated. There's reinforced concrete that has to take place. All of that, we've got bids on all of that. We've had bids on all of that. So that's a matter of snapping our fingers and putting the subs to action. Now, I still have to go get all that approved at my company, but that's pretty easy to do as well. So all of this could take place rather quickly. We can start the process anyways. And we're happy to do so. We would like to see some reinsurances that we can become conforming. As Daryl mentioned, there's financial implications. There's just safety issues. I mean, we need to be conforming as a Class A apartment community. And we're happy to do so. The value clearly would be affected, and, that could change the tenant profile down the road. That's not something we certainly want to do. I mean, we have Class A tenants and a high degree of standards and approval and credit standards that go into everyone that, that signs a lease with us. And so that could change, unfortunately, if our value changes. It's just important for us to be able to get this corrected. And we're willing to do whatever necessary to meet with the homeowners on a regular basis, whether that's monthly, or certainly we're offering an annual meeting with them, and we're happy to do so. There was no specific reason why we, waited all this time, other than just let the matter cool down and, obviously try to reengage with the HOA members. On a regular basis, whether that's monthly, or certainly we're offering an annual meeting with them, and we're happy to do so. There was no specific reason why we waited all this time.
So
Cool
I'm reading the
down
PD, and the PD does have
obviously
the,
try to reengage with,
the
with
timelines
the
for some of
HOA
these
members.
things are 6 months. And I know that you're saying that that's kind of the far end of when all of this can happen much sooner. So I'm glad to see that y'all do have that. I do remember that last year we did have a more formalized timeline and time frame as to a bunch of different moving pieces. So I would encourage you to update that, if this moves forward, have that for city council and for any of the residents that would like to see that. This property it's been an interesting property. I think this thing has come back for planning and zoning since I've been on here quite a few times. And we always get a good turnout from the residents around the area. I'm glad to see that y'all are still engaging with them, that you're still attempting to work with the community to try to address their concerns. And, I don't think that this is an unreasonable request from y'all to say, hey, yeah, we're willing to do these things, but let's put it on paper. And then y'all can hold me accountable for those things. So I do feel like this is kind of the right avenue that we should be taking to do this, to kind of balance both sides of what is necessary to keep and maintain the value of this property, not only for the developers, but the value of that impacts revenue that comes into the city. So there's a lot of different moving pieces that can happen if this value, if this property stays in a non-conforming use function. But I do want to thank y'all for re-engaging and being there and listening to them. One of the things that I did find a little strange was that within this PD that you're willing to give the Steeplechase homeowners 30-day prior notice of any additional zoning changes. So is this kind of like a first
That'd be
step?
30-day notice before the neighborhood meeting.
Before the, oh, okay. Well, it says,
Does it?
that you're willing to give it says the property owner or property management entity will provide Steeplechase Homeowners Association with at least 30 days prior written notice before submitting an application to change or amend the zoning classification of the property with the city of Kennedale.
If it was up to us, we'd say that the PD is locked in permanently and never can change, but obviously that's state law, and if somebody wants to come and do that later on, that's their prerogative. We have no intent. All we know is that the residents ask that we notify them, should anyone, whether it's Wood or somebody else down the road. If it was up to us, we'd say notify them properly of any, suggested opening or changes to the PD.
So this was put in there as a response to
That's correct.
engaging with Steeplechase. This was put in there because Steeplechase basically requested to be notified if it's going to future change.
That's correct. And like I said, if we could lock it in permanently and never have the PD changed, that's an option, but I don't think state law allows that.
This was
So
put in there as a response to engaging with Steeplechase. This was put in there because Steeplechase basically
If it does pass,
it's going to future change.
obviously P and Z and council, it does become law. So it doesn't matter if it's Wood's partner, if it's someone else, they sell it, someone else comes in, they still have to abide by that ordinance, by that code. So it doesn't matter who the owner is. So whatever we put into plan development, if that's the direction, whoever purchases still has to follow that. As you can tell, the things that they're offering are quality of life concerns, not for our community, for the surrounding community, and also the property itself. Obviously, there's 240 lots or units there. They're part of the city as well. So everything that's being offered is a quality of life issue that's going to improve the improvement of just that, the ones that live there and the ones that surrounding it. And that's, once it's approved, it's forever. The only way it changes is someone comes back and requests a different zoning. So everything that's being offered is a quality of life issue that's going to improve the improvement of just that, the ones that live there and the ones that surrounding it.
Thank you.
That's, once it's approved,
Thank you.
it's forever. The only way it changes is someone comes back and requests a different zoning. So everything that's being offered is a quality of life issue that's going to
Okay.
improve the
There being no other questions, we'll go ahead and entertain a motion.
Thank you.
I'm going to put a water on there that we have those conditionals that were applied last time on this motion as well. To entertain the communication and ensure that not only, I mean, obviously we got the PD is going to drive some changes, but then there's some awesome good faith changes that have been placed in here in requests. So that will be the conditional as far as I'm concerned. If we adopt a recommendation that those conditions are set forth that to be discussed at the city council, as well as, I would say, to ensure that the steeplechase community especially has a better understanding of what it means to them and their property values, because right now I believe the indicator is that they feel like their property values are going to drop if this change is adopted. That's something that, I mean, we can do good as a city, the city council can discuss, and as far as you guys are, I would look out there and say, you know, this is how it can improve. Definitely make sure that they are aware of the positives as well as potential negatives. I mean, just transparency. So that's really the only conditional I would like to add to that. We can do good as a city, the city council can discuss.
Can you summarize that conditional?
Yes. This is how it can improve. A motion to approve conditionally, this case to the P and Z, with the conditions that the developer discusses further information on how it impacts the steeplechase community and the city at large while discussing it with city council. Please bring that up. Conditionally, this case to the P and Z, with the conditions that the developer discusses further information on how it impacts the steeplechase community and the city at large while discussing it
All in
with city
favor?
council. Please bring that up. Say aye.
Unanimous.
This case to the P and Z, with the
Thank you very much.
conditions that the developer discusses further information.
All right, so that is the last agenda item that we have. So motion for adjournment?
And that is a happy motion I will, at this point, make.
Second. Any seconds? All right,
I second the motion.
and all in favor of adjournment? All right, we are adjourned at 6:54 PM. For adjournment?
That is a happy motion I will, at this point, make.